All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you for having us here today, and thank you for joining our session for the Ohio Judicial Conference. My name is Carly Scholes. I'm the Regional Manager for Ohio and pretty much every other state east of the Mississippi, but I also have Scott Curran, our Services Director, on the call with us this morning, as well as our Sales VP, Tony Alvarez. And we're very excited to be able to show you exactly what Vista Solutions Group has been providing over to our clients. So we're going to keep the presentation fairly simple here this morning. We'll talk about some solutions that we've been providing over to our customers. We'll give you a quick show and tell of one of those solutions, and then we'll be able to open it up to any questions that may come up from the information that's provided this morning. And at the end of all this, our biggest goal is to go ahead and be able to help you guys out. So jumping into our solutions here, we do offer quite a lot, but don't worry, we make it simple and affordable. And we've been doing exactly that for over 20 years. We exclusively helped to digitize, automate, and protect our government clients' most valuable assets, which are their records, their documents, and of course their data. Now, what do our services include? Well, first off, we sit down to help you determine exactly what tools you need so that you don't pay for the things that you don't need. Our solutions will work in both court and non-court applications, and our support is not limited. So you have full access to us here in the office. Plus, our annual support includes enhancements to the software. And we're able to do all of this affordably by allowing you to buy a la carte or bundled. So this makes it simple and affordable. Now, one solution we're very excited to provide over to our customers is our bots. And this is our little robot here on the left-hand side. His name is Vista's Innovative Bot. We call him VIB for short. But the big question with this is, what can VIB do to bring joy to you, the client? Well, first, VIB can log into your case management system, whether you are using CourtView, Pioneer, Henshin, or even Tyler. It can then go in and create a case by collecting and inserting case-specific information, and then it's able to populate all of that into a case shell. And you can get as many bots as you want to do much, much more for your office. And the biggest thing with this is that it will go in and eliminate repetitive tasks, freeing you up to do the more important things in your office. Now, another great solution that we have is our document intake workflow. This is something VIB can help you with if you want him to. It's up to you. But really how that document intake workflow makes your work life better is it provides a uniform intake from an e-portal, a scan, or really any other interface. It then can go in, propose, align, and even assign docket codes. And it eliminates the guesswork out of docketing, which then reduces training time for users and minimizes errors. And the most important thing for our clients with that is that that security gets assigned accurately. Now, another really exciting solution that we're providing over to our clients is our Identified AI, which is our redaction tool. And the biggest question with this is, why use our redaction? Well, first, it's easy to use and train, so you're not having to send off a knowledge base in order to get an updated solution. It recognizes zones, clue words, regular expressions, and has improved recognition on machine print and handwriting formats. So with each training, that accuracy is going to continue to improve. And you're going to get a far better solution, a far better service, at a far more affordable price point. Now, last but not least, before our show and tell here, we have our retention tool. And the biggest question with this is to keep or not to keep. That is the question. It sounds poetic, but we keep it very simple. So our retention tool is configurable to meet state or local standards. It will eliminate sifting and searching for requested documents manually, and it reduces expensive, wasteful storage costs while also making it easy to purge large sets of documents. And with all of this, it mitigates the risk for clerks. And the most important thing there is that that compliance is made easy. So jumping into our show and tell here, I'll pass it over to Scott Curran, our services director. I know some of you have already met him, but if you haven't, he's great at everything he does. He knows this like the back of his hand. He'll be able to walk us through a redaction presentation this morning.
Thank you, Carly. Well, I'm excited to share a quick demo of Identihide that you can use in the NetDMS Workflow User Console. Of note, Identihide AI also works with software running in other departments like archives or records, your finance records, elections, and more. So it's a really flexible tool. Before jumping into the demo, I'd like to just give a little overview of Identihide AI Review Queue. So starting up here on the top left, we have our accept all, and our reject all of the redaction candidates. This will just let you navigate through the redaction fields, which are recognized by the OCR and the rule sets that you determine. In the middle of the page, you might recognize the Vista viewer is present. So you can still use this module to access the full annotations toolbar, meaning that if you want to add a post-it note or add a manual redaction, you still can. Or if you, or we can help you further automate automations by letting the machine learning and VibBot apply those annotations for it and take care of it for you. To the far right, you'll see the redacted data fields. This means that it's configurable based off the rule sets, and it populates up here only if there's a redaction presented for you to review. So let's see just how easy it is to work a document. The first thing that you'll see is that the first candidate shown is highlighted in red. As you accept the redaction, automatically changes to black and moves on to the next candidate. You'll also see over here on the right that there's a green check mark indicating the user's acceptance of the particular redaction. If you reject a candidate, it will advance you to the next one, but there will be a red X indicating that it has been rejected. Let's continue advancing through the document, and you'll see that the candidates are all being addressed. Now, if you want to go back and add a manual redaction, you simply just navigate, use the navigation tools in the viewer. In this case, to add a manual redaction, just draw over the space you would like to have redacted, and the redaction will be placed. If you, in your review, you realize that you need to go back and undo a step, simply select the undo button next to the candidate and mark that candidate with the correct button. If you use save and approve, the redactions will be applied and the next document in queue will show up. One of the cool features of our technology is that we do use 3 major categories to present redactions on a document. Number 1 is zonal redaction. This is based off of the coordinates on the page. Number 2 is by clue word or series of clue words, such as social security number or date of birth, or the initials like SSN or DOB. Number 3 is by number format or regular expressions. And of course, machine print and handwriting can be identified in this tool. As Carly mentioned, you won't need to prepare or send the knowledge base for updates. Identihide AI is intelligent and improves its use with each training. So you really see it is really easy, super clean looking, powerful. Best of all, it's affordable, and you always have a great team here to support you at Vista. I'm going to turn it back over to Carly for the Q&A, but we'll stay on the line in case you have any questions.
All right, perfect, Scott, and thank you so much. As he mentioned, we will open it up to questions, but before we jump into that, I would just like to reiterate what we spoke about today. So whether you are using any CMS, any other records software, or even any other ECM, or even if you're using our solutions with NetDMS and DMS3, whatever manual processes that you have, we can help automate, whether it be retention, redaction, intake of your documents, stamps, bots. We really have the solution for you. And with that being said, we're going to open it up to questions. If you could, there should be a little raise hand button at the top of your team screen. Just raise your hand, and when we see that you have a question, we'll go ahead and pass it over to you and be able to answer that to the best of our abilities.
Okay, Nathan.
Hello, Scott. This is Nathan here. Nathan Schuler. I'm from the Claremont County Common Pleas Court, as well as the Claremont County Clerk's Office. And I just see that redacting things are really important. And we've had discussions in the past as far as, let me turn my camera on. Okay, there we go. And we had talked about this, and redacting is important, especially for liability purposes. And as far as our court goes, we would like to put out as many documents as possible to support transparency and access to justice. And the problem that we see is that it's really difficult to manually redact everything. And I would rather over redact and then have people come to us and say, hey, this is over redacted, and then we can look at it on a case-by-case basis than actually under redact and put ourselves out there for liability. As a court, we have issues with social security numbers, victims, things like that that are on actual documentation. And I was just curious, and I showed up a little bit late, but I was just curious, what is the solution that you guys have for just doing mostly auto redaction to where we don't have to have somebody come in each individual piece of parchment and look at it and say, yep, that's redacted, that's not redacted. And for us, I would rather over redact than under redact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And with our redaction tool, we can go in and train it to automatically identify the specific fields that are needed for your office. So essentially the people that work in your office won't need to go in and manually approve each single one, because it will increase its confidence level with each training. So over time, it will be able to start to do all of that by itself, and will only move the documents that need a little bit extra work on it into a queue. And then as they approve it, the software will learn from that and then be able to put that into the automatic queue as well. And then Scott can also specify a little bit more on it.
Yeah, what's great about I love that question. What's great about the IdenHide is that we have the ability to route specific documents to it because we have our full workflow with NetDMS, as well as we have confidence ratings. And so if it's a high confidence, we can have it go ahead and process through automatically. And then in the review queue, the ones that aren't so confident, or maybe specific ones that you do want to look at, regardless of its confidence, we can have the documents routed there for manual inspection as well. But the identified candidates will already be present.
Okay.
So it would be really truly a review of what the machine has caught, and then you can add any manual if there's anything else that needs to be added.
Okay, and then if for some reason we were contacted and they were like, hey, you should look at that document again. I think you over redacted some of this, you know, can you like look at that on a case by case basis?
Yes, absolutely. Any user that needs to, any user has the ability to modify the document will be able to remove a redaction by a simple right click and delete.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because I think that's really important as far as the safeguard of the information that we have, because I mean we are the keeper of that information, and we are ultimately responsible if we're putting out data that we should not be putting out. So there's kind of a balance between transparency and, you know, not giving out information that we shouldn't be giving out.
Right.
And, you know, because of the sensitivity of the cases and things of that nature that we're dealing with, it makes it really difficult to balance that as far as, you know, transparency versus, you know, trying to redact things that the public won't have access to or shouldn't have access to based on court orders and things of that nature. And so I think that's, you know, it's kind of that's kind of a slippery slope as far as, you know, transparency goes, I think, where a lot of people think, oh, I'll just give them everything. And it's like, well, wait a minute, like, you know, we are bound by the court to not give people everything. And we have to come up with ways in order to, you know, try to give everybody what they need without, you know, giving people what they should not have access to. And I think as far as courts and the clerk of courts goes, I think that's a really, really large issue that we all face as far as, you know, liability, because there are people out there who will actually go through those documents and they will take legal action against the courts and against the clerk's office, probably rightfully, because, you know, honestly, we haven't done, you know, if we're releasing that information and it should not be released, then we're not doing our due diligence in that regard. And I mean, nothing's perfect, no system's perfect, but I think, you know, even if we have, or if we're making an effort to have redaction in place, I think that shows that we're moving in the right direction. And like I said, I would rather over redact than under redact as far as that goes. We can always deal with, you know, and when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about documents that we're just putting out openly on the web without anybody having any kind of a, you know, a login or anything like that. I just think that then they could just reach out to the clerk of courts and say, hey, you redacted too much. I think you redacted too much. And then we could look at that on a case by case basis and then determine whether or not we did redact too much.
Right. That's really, I mean, that's a really great question. And so, I mean, really the balancing between transparency and safeguarding is always a top format and a top of the list. But one of the things that I do want to say is that by instituting an automatic process plus with your manual review, I think that this does show a level of effort was made to safeguard, and it definitely will protect the clerk's office. What other questions are there? And Ryan, if you would unmute.
Actually, I had a question on how does the Identihide work with a pre-existing image installation? Can it go back and just do a certain number of years, or the complete repository of images that you have?
Right, that's an awesome question. And that, simply put, I think what we would do in our fully functional workflow there is that we would route the documents that we would want to. We could queue up documents to be routed through that queue and to process through them. All the great machine learning and AI can be applied to those documents. Really, the only prerequisite for Identihide to work is to have a digital image that it can process. So you can have it a part of the workflow for day forward, just going through and flowing through as you would naturally expect it to. And if for any pre-existing documents, we can route back and set up a back file processing. Again, a great question.
What other questions do you have for us today?
Tanya?
Tanya, if you could go ahead and unmute yourself.
So you said this works with existing case management systems like CourtView, and I know they've got their own IDMS imaging software. How do those actually interact?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our solutions can be installed independently. They don't need a specific software to work on it. Scott can kind of get into the specifics of that though.
Right, through building an interface with that imaging, we are able to take in the image into our side, process it through, and deliver it back. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And you said you've also got multiple different types of programmings that you can do piecemeal, a la carte, rather
Yes.
than just the Identihide.
Right, especially our bots.
Okay.
Our bots are not what we kind of use the term is that they are they can work with any software. They're not tied to any specific software. It's all in the training of them.
Okay.
Great question.
Oh, Nathan, you have another question?
Yeah, can you expound on the bots? I mean, you may have talked about this. I showed up a little bit late, but are those like virtual machines that are set up, or how does that work? Like, I think, are they like their own standalone machine, or are there multiple ones that do different things, or can you expound on that?
Yeah, definitely. So the bots themselves, you can get as many as you want. And the biggest thing that they do is go in and eliminate a lot of those tedious manual processes. So we can get a bot to pretty much do whatever manual process you need it to do in your office. And really whatever you need it done is how many, it would kind of determine what you, like how many you would need. Scott can kind of talk a little bit more about the mechanics of it though.
Right. So we would set up a bot on a virtual machine, like you mentioned, or if there are multiple different processes that you wanted a bot to do, and we would train those bots to do those tasks. So, for instance, I think the example that we used in our slideshow was about creating case shells or case files with the information off of the document, so that a case number could be generated and parties could be added to it. We can have that. The other use cases that we have in bots in Florida are accepting e-filing off the e-portal. We're doing docketing with the bots by taking information from that filing and putting it into the case management system. We're also going through one of the other case management systems called Clericus, which we can train a bot for CourtView, Henshin, Tyler, Pioneer as well, and go through to update like ticklers or any of the other compliance items.
Wow.
And to go through that.
So you're basically screen scraping as well. So like you could go out to a web page and you could pull information off of a web page and then take that, copy that information, and then put that into like a some kind of a dialog box and then press enter. So basically you're setting up like macros essentially. Is that correct?
Right. The bot can screen scrape and then be trained to accept documents. Exactly right.
Wow. Wow. That seems like it's really, really powerful. Because I mean that would alleviate a lot of work for a lot of people. Like
But that's what we're finding.
Work.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we're finding is actually there's a case study that we're doing that we did in Florida with the Florida Department of Financial Services that is saving 4 minutes per document, and the document range that they get of that particular document is about 75,000 a year. So it saves quite a bit of time, and you almost get an instantaneous return on investment.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I could see where that could be beneficial. Now, how would that work if somebody changes their web page or their website or different variables of that nature? Would you have to go in and reprogram that that bot to go to the right dialog box to pull the information? Is that what you would have to do?
We would have, yes, retrain. There are 3 different ways that we do train the bots on, depending on the software that we're interfacing. We have API tie-ins that we can use. We can do screen scraping, like you mentioned, or we can, sometimes the code has exposure of that dialog box, and no matter where it is located, it has a tag on the metadata, and that we can read that metadata tag and use that information. So there's 3 different major ways, and I think it's probably the 3 most popular ways of working with bots, and our bots have the ability to do that.
Okay. And again, just to reiterate, like screen scraping is basically just going to like any screen and then pulling that information off of that screen and then using that text as something to put into the bot program. Is that correct? So,
right.
Okay. So essentially you could make your bot take text out of any program that's on the computer or that would be run on that virtual machine, and then you could copy that text, tell the bot to open up Google Chrome and then open up google.com and then put that text in the search box for Google and then press search and then take that first, whatever search result and then do something with that. Is that kind of what you can do with the bot? Is that correct?
You are absolutely right.
Okay. And so basically it automates mundane tasks, essentially. It's kind of like low tech, high tech in a way, because it's like, it would seem pretty simple to do that, but in reality, it's a little bit difficult, but you have to have a dedicated bot to actually do that. Is that correct? So it's just running a routine that is just over and over again.
That's
and then,
right.
So it's waiting on something, I guess, so you can get it to wait on a task, and then once it's in its box, I guess, or then it does something with that information. Now, what do you do if it gets the wrong information, or if it's waiting for, let's say, court view, or court view's taking too long, and it's just, or something, it's just sitting there spinning and it times out. What do you do when something times out with the bot? What happens then?
That's another great question. And I'll answer this question and then we'll move on the question and answer, but would love to follow up with you on any of these topics. And so do come by our one-on-one space and everything like that, and we'll happily do that. But the answer to that question is however the bot is trained to handle an exception. So if it does run into a timeout situation, we can train it to shut itself down and close out the applications and then re-queue back up 2 or 3 minutes later and attempt the process again.
Okay.
As an example.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Great questions. And just to kind of wrap it up today, there's one more thing that we need to address, and that is why select Vista Solutions Group. Well, at the end of the day, you're going to get far more choices with our solutions. You're going to get a more high quality, user-friendly solution, and you'll get excellent customer service from our team here. Our DAP solutions are also available in both court and non-court applications, so we can help with any part of your process in your office. And then lastly, we are a proven cost-effective solutions provider, serving not only Ohio, but many of our other states for over 2 decades. And with that being said, let us go ahead, or more specifically me, help make your work life easier, more secure, and we can do it affordably. Again, my name is Carly Scholes. We will be reaching out to follow up with you here very soon. But in the meantime, if you'll have any additional questions, we have Jessica Kerr on our one-on-one link. She's very excited to meet everyone. You can find that link on your online electronic book that the OJC provided. And thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and go through this with us today.